Hello and welcome to Rise with Crossroads Clubhouse and Monroe Community Mental Health Authority. I'm your host Desi, and today's guest is Chantelle Steffans. And Chantelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Desi.
You're welcome. And Chantelle, I heard that you were on our Crossroads Advisory Board, and you're also on the Monroe Community Mental Health Advisory Board as well.
I am, yes.
So tell us a little about each and also a little about yourself.
Well, the Clubhouse Advisory Board is part of what you guys do, actually. And I'm not sure that a lot of people in Monroe know about the Clubhouse. I didn't know a lot about the Clubhouse until it was introduced to me by Monroe Community Mental Health. So I have someone very near and dear to me that uses services at Monroe Community Mental Health. And I'm actually a guardian for some people that use the services at Monroe Community Mental Health. And so being involved in that way, their case managers introduced us to the Clubhouse and the services at the Clubhouse. And so that's how I first got to experience all the things that it had to offer. And then I'm also friends with Steffan and he's the director of the Clubhouse. And so started getting involved and seeing what they did and thought it was really valuable. So I decided to accept an invitation to join the board. So it's been a wonderful experience so far.
That's good, because Crossroads Clubhouse is really a good place, and we really enjoy having new members and also have people like you kind of like stick up for us on our advisory board.
Well, it's wonderful. It's worth sticking up for, that's for sure. So I love just seeing that people get a chance to come in early in the morning, sign up for things to do, interact with people, eat lunch here, receive job services, and learn how to prepare meals and things like that. And it's just a wonderful service. So it's been really helpful. And then I got involved with Monroe Community Mental Health Board because of some of my very dear ones that were close to me receiving services there and wanting to give back and also impact change maybe in some of the ways that we offer services. And I felt like the best way to do that was to interview and be a part of the board. So I do that. I've been doing that, I think, almost a year and a half now. So It's been a really huge learning experience to learn how to be a board member, and but also just to be able to invest a lot of time in researching what's best. So I've been able to go to some national conferences and state conferences, and being involved in both of those things has made me really passionate about improving mental health services in our country, actually. So doing what I can, and it's been a worthy pursuit, I think.
Okay, so being on a advisory board with community mental health, do you have a particular job or a position on there?
Well, I'm the chair of the Clinical Operations Committee, and so we have a meeting once a month, and we are in charge of making sure that we're moving forward with the strategic plan for Monroe Community Mental Health Authority. We do not run the organization, but we do play the role of holding the executive officer accountable for moving the strategic plan forward. And so that's the work we do each month, is they report back what's going on and how we're making progress. And we encourage them to make movement on certain things and give feedback, and are just there as support to try to make us all great. So that's one of the jobs, and then the other is just attending the board meetings and doing the research needed to give good input when we're voting on different items.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you see these both roles help in these communities?
Well, I think that when you're noticing that the community could use you to play a role that would cause our community services to improve, I think it's important to get involved rather than just complain. And so that's what I decided to do, is to get involved and learn more, because a lot of times I found out that my complaints had really good reasons as to why they were going the way they were going. And then that allowed me to turn my complaints into understanding and then I can extend that understanding to the community. Like, for example, Monroe Community Mental Health Authority is it's a state-run organization, and so we have to comply with different state laws and Medicaid laws and Medicare laws and things like that. And so there are reasons behind why we do what we do and the way that we do them. And most of the time it's because we have to be in compliance and flesh out what that looks like. So I learned a lot about that, Desi. Had no clue, because you have this idea of how it would feel if it ran a certain way. But there's things that you can and can't do according to what they've decided at the state and sometimes federal level, and how we're allowed to do stuff. So it's been a good learning experience.
Yes.
Sometimes painful, but good.
Yeah. And so do you think one day with this learning experience, you hope the community will hopefully learn from ending the stigma?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that a lot of different things are influencing ending the stigma. I am surrounded by a group of wonderful friends that we all believe we have struggles at different points of our life, and no one is void of that, and so sometimes those struggles aren't life debilitating, when sometimes they are, and it's important for all of us to just take care of our mental health. I have a psychologist friend who talks about our person being like a car where we all have 4 tires, that it's our job to keep those tires full of air, that we have a physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional tire, and we've got to keep all those tires full of air, and it's our job to make sure that we do so, which is why I'm really passionate about sharing the resources at Monroe Community Mental Health. We're also working on possibly moving towards becoming something called a CCBHC. We applied to be one. We're waiting to hear if we're going to be able to be one, but that will allow Monroe Community Mental Health to be even more of a resource for people who are seeking mental health help. But I think ending the stigma begins with people being willing to look in the mirror and say, sometimes I struggle. And who am I to look at others who struggle too and to judge them? But pass on what we know, pass on what has worked for us, not insist that someone else try it, but invite them to consider it and go from there. But ending the stigma, I think, is going to happen in a lot of different ways, but I think this new generation is already doing a lot of the work that needs to be done to end the stigma. But it's funny how, I don't know if you believe in God or the universe kind of inserts things in your life that if you don't end the stigma, life ends up ending the stigma for you. And that has been my experience in particular.
Okay. Yes, I believe at least someday that hopefully soon the stigma will end. Mm-hmm. But it's going to take some time. Mm-hmm. And hopefully maybe that one day will be soon.
Yes. I believe ending stigmas begin with educating ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yep, and understanding why things are the way they are, And so if we can be an educational community, a community who wants to engage in lifelong learning and not having fixed mindsets, I think that our community at least could be one that is one to watch and one that people want to live in. That's what I hope for, because I definitely love living in Monroe. I love being here, and it's the people, there's some nice things about Monroe, but the people here is what keeps me here. And so, yeah, I think education is a big piece of it. That's
yes.
For sure. And sharing our story, having the courage to share our story, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know on the show earlier this year, I've had my story been told with Steffan, yes. who's our director of Crossroads Clubhouse.
Okay.
And I know some people have seen it and they were moved and they didn't know that much that has happened to me. So I'm hoping my story inspires them to hopefully end the stigma.
Yes, absolutely. I bet that took a lot of courage for you to do that.
Yes.
Yes. When you told your story, even though it took a lot of courage, how did you feel afterwards?
I felt emotional because I try not to cry on the show, trying to tell my story, but I felt pretty good and hopefully it would help someone after that.
Have the courage to tell theirs as well.
Yes.
Right. I know that there's still that risk out there that once we tell our story, then we may be judged and not given opportunities that we want. And I do understand that, but I think that we're moving into a world where once we tell our stories, other people, even our employers or people that we're interested in partnering with, then feel like they know us as human and that they can be human as well. And so I love that. I know we have our own stories inside of our family and our close friends and people who have struggled with different things. And it's interesting because my story is part of other people's stories. And so I haven't struggled with a severe mental illness or severe mental health help need, but I have tried to advocate. And so advocacy can be very exhausting. And it can also be a huge learning experience. And you want to figure out as an advocate how to be the best you can be for someone else, yet not take on the work that they need to do also. And it's an interesting balance. But, our stories inside of what we are doing to move forward mental health in a positive way, they're important to tell because other people are actually looking for resources, but they're afraid to ask. So I look for opportunities now to help where I can, because I don't think I was meant to keep all of this learning to myself.
No.
So it's hard to navigate a lot of stuff, Desi. Like learning to navigate Department of Human Services, learning to navigate Monroe Community Mental Health, learning to navigate housing, and all those things that come along with maybe a mental health break or a mental illness or being disabled or any of those things. It's almost as if we make it complicated on purpose. And I do resent that, I have to say. I resent that because it doesn't have to be that hard. I would say out of all the things I would like to change, it's the ease of gaining services in our community would be wonderful. I have experienced some absolutely wonderful services, like helping someone get housing at Woodcraft Square. I'm going to give a shout out to the ladies who run Woodcraft Square. They have been amazing support to people that I love. They're very compliant. They make sure that all the things are filled out, but they're willing to sit down and assist people to get housing. And so there are currently some really amazing services. I want to give a shout out to Department of Human Services. They have recently improved their services that if you go into the office, you can state what you need if it's needing to talk to a case manager or a caseworker, and now you can actually go to a phone in the lobby and there's someone on call all day long who will pick up the phone immediately. So super thankful for resources we do have in our community, and for, and recently there's been a lot, Desi, of a lot of people in our community speaking up for the importance of good mental health. I'm thankful for that too, that our community actually cares. That we have the services that we need, and people are moving forward on that. So
yes, I'm glad that we had those resources, and without having those resources, we may not have the opportunity to get help on filling out the paperwork that we need to fill to get the help.
Absolutely. Well, Deb Steelgrave is a city council member, and she and Aaron Lavender actually started or had the idea of starting something called the Community Coalition. And they meet, I believe, every other Friday also, and it involves community mental health. It involves a lot of our community partners who offer mental health services, and they get together and they are creating almost like a work plan to improve working together in our community. So I'm really thankful for a lot of the services in our community. I thought about one more resource in our community. There's a lot of them, but one of them that I'm really excited about is a meeting that happens every couple of weeks with a lot of community leaders. It's called the Community Coalition, and they are working on a work plan together to improve services and improve communication with each other. So like Todd Holstead, I believe he's in charge of safety, like police and fire in our community. Deb Steelgrave, who is a city council member, and Aaron Lavender had the idea to get everyone together and start talking more. And so I believe that a lot of the things that we're hoping to see happen in our country, in our state, and in our community are starting to occur because people are speaking up and speaking out. And wanting to see services offered in a quality way, in a high quality way for our community members. So I'm really encouraged by that, encouraged by different things that everybody's trying to do their part to make it better. So it's we're getting there, I think. And it happens because of partnerships and working together and people like you speaking up and telling your stories. And what you by you doing that, it gives other people kind of like permission and courage to do the same, and then share resources as well. So I think ending the stigma means that we just start talking and talking with each other and working together. You know, the pandemic kind of took that away from us because we all were isolated and isolating. So I'm glad to see that we're not doing that anymore.
Yes, I'm glad the pandemic has sort of ended, but it's still somewhat out there.
Yeah.
But I'm glad also that we have that this community that supports each other, and we have these resources that come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't all happen, you know, at once. I mean, sometimes we really frustrate each other, but that's what relationships are all about. You know, I think that there was a couple of decades there that we were taught not to fight, not to conflict, not to have these types of things. But through conflict, I believe if you choose to be as healthy as you can, through conflict, actually some truth comes out, some things that we need to work on come out, and then we decide how we're going to move forward from there if we choose to operate in a healthy way. So.
Okay. So our next question is, how do you encourage others to take care of their mental health?
Well, I think everybody does it differently. Like I'm somewhat of an extrovert. I like to be around a lot of other people, but I recharge by being alone and doing art and yoga and meditation and prayer and things like that. And so I just encourage people to design their day in a way where they are taking good care of themselves, because if you take good care of yourself, you can take care of others. And I learned that the hard way a little bit, Desi. So I've gotten, as the older I get, I realize how important it is. So, yeah.
Yes, I'm not quite sure which one I am. I think I'm an introvert with a little bit of extrovert.
Yeah.
And I have to like step away and recharge myself, and it may take me a while, maybe a few days.
Yep. To recharge.
Recharge, yes.
Yep. I totally understand. So I know isolation isn't good. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. I know isolation isn't good. We all need each other. We need interaction with each other. And that's one of the reasons I love the clubhouse, is because it gives everyone an opportunity to come and interact with other people and get those human touches and responses and interactions that we all need. So, yeah.
I know there's some days that I take a day off at Clubhouse to get some R&R time, but I do come back.
Yeah, which is what I love about it. You're always welcome back, aren't you? Yeah, one of the things that I know as a board we're excited about is, I believe in January, Clubhouse actually opens to anybody. You don't have to necessarily have certain types of insurance or be a consumer. It's going to be open up to almost everybody. And I'm excited about us creating a vision for what that's going to look like. I know that we have 2 units of study at the clubhouse. The one is about culinary, and another is called co-op, which is about gaining job skills. But it's just exciting to see what it's going to grow into and how it's going to help our community create experiences for people to gain some skills, but also interact with other people too and not be isolated. So
yes,
yeah.
Right now we're with Clubhouse Crossroads. We're working on growing, so hopefully we'll figure out what the future holds.
Yes, absolutely.
So what are some things you see us doing to help our community?
I think that if each of us do our part, you know, I'm a Southern Baptist preacher's kid, and we used to sing this song all the time when I was a kid, each one reach one. And I believe that mental health can be extremely improved if one person who is well decides to help one person who is struggling. And it doesn't have to be everybody. You can really wear yourself out. But if one person who is been able to get well decides to advocate and learn how to advocate well for another person, I believe our community can thrive. That person who wants it. You know, you can't want more for someone who doesn't want for themselves, but if there's an inkling of want, then I think partnering with someone who has an inkling of want but just doesn't know exactly how to get what they need, partnering with them until they're capable is a really great thing. There's always got to be an exit plan. Like, we should always be advocating for someone and helping them do. So I love this idea that the Japanese have in their culture, because I'm an educator, a teacher, and a lot of times when a child is learning to write, the mother will write the assignment first and then show the child what she did and explain what she did, and then they will write it together, and then that child will write on their own. And it's always this idea of, let me show you, let's do it together, now let's do it on your own. And I think that's what advocacy is. It's you're doing for someone, but then you're asking them to come with. And then you're doing it with, and then you're saying, now I think you can do it on your own. And so there's nothing like going from not being able to be independent to being able to be independent. And we all should have that high efficacy of, I can do what I need to get done to serve myself and my life. So I think that's how our community could change, is if we invest in each other. Not overdo it, not overtax, but invest in maybe one other person and just help each other thrive. Yes,
I think that might be an actual good thing that we should actually try. I'd be happy to see that actually happen. It might have already actually happened, but it's just not too often to see.
Yeah, you know, I know it's happened in my own life, but one of the ways that I've been supported is I have to give a shout out to the court systems. Our court systems in Monroe, I don't know about everyone's experience, I just know about my experiences, whether it be guardianship or maybe small claims or divorce or mental health court. I have experience with a lot of different areas in our court system. They are extremely supportive. If you go downtown and you go to the right places and you interact with the people who are in the know, they will walk you through what you need to do. But our town is really unique because they've implemented, I think Steffan was a big part of getting that implemented, the mental health court system. So someone who's struggling with a mental illness their case can be heard by mental health court if you advocate for that to happen and the judge decides, rather than being in regular court and experiencing those things. And so even if an advocate or a person who wanted to advocate appropriately advocated in that way, like that person recognized that person was struggling with a mental illness when something occurred, and they advocated in the court system for that person to experience mental health court instead of the opposite, that can change a life. It really can be the beginning of hope and something different. So that's just a small inkling of what advocates can do. Advocates can help a person get maybe food benefits that they didn't have before. They could help a person just go to DHS and ask all kinds of questions about what benefits do they actually qualify for. Like, a lot of times a person staying in the hospital, that hospital stay can qualify them to receive services from DHS that they wouldn't have normally been able to receive. And so I'm not saying do a hospital stay so you can get services, but people don't necessarily know that can allow for time to recover from a hospital stay and to have your resources shored up, because food, shelter, clothing is what stabilizes us. Having those things stabilizes our mental health. And so if you advocate for a person to have those shored up, then you're actually advocating for their mental health to improve. So I don't know. You can tell I'm a little passionate about it, Desi, but I think it's important to identify people who could use someone to come alongside them.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong to be passionate about it. And I think that would be it for today's show.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Chantelle, for coming on to our show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I hope to see you on here maybe next time.
That sounds great. Thank you.
I would like to thank Monroe Community Mental Health Authority for supporting us with this show. And I would like to thank MPAC Studio for providing this platform. And please be kind to yourself so you could be kind to others. Hi, Crossroads Clubhouse is doing a pop bottle and can drive for the communications program. And we're at the Benish building right next to the Tim Hortons on South Monroe Street. Our address is 428 South Monroe Street, Suite 101. We are collecting them to hopefully raise for items that we need to edit our videos. We could collect them any time of the week. If you can't deliver them, we could pick them up by calling us at 734-243-6401. So we hope to see you soon.